All right.
Greetings, 3D printing enthusiasts. Thank you for joining us for our 8th episode of How Would You Slice That? If you're new here, we're just trying to join like a little live stream show on Tuesdays that are prime numbers, and we're trying to combine community time with just some time to think about and strategize and collaborate on slicing. With me, as always, is my co-host, Dr. Lawrence Nightingale. And
Hello.
if you aren't, hello, if you aren't familiar with Lawrence, he is an educator and a 3D printing advocate from Alexandria, Virginia. He's been 3D printing for over 11 years now, going back to his first platform, which was an early wood frame Prusa i3. He established a 3D printing lab using Railcore platforms. He has done extensive research on the effect of 3D printing on college students, and he's even presented about that research at IRF 2018. He was also a presenter at the National Maker Fair. And yeah, I guess, Lawrence, that's about it.
Thank you for having me, Vicki.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm glad that we picked prime number Tuesdays as the days for us to have our show, because it just gives us a little bit of opportunity to educate people about what prime numbers are.
That's
numbers that cannot be divided by another number, which is pretty sweet. I think that's a great way to do it. So I'm glad to be here today on May the 7th, after May the 4th and the Cinco de Mayo. It's been a long, very eventful several days.
So, and Lawrence and I both have school-age children who have their standards of learning tests this week. So it's been an eventful time.
2 this week and 1 next week.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Now,
yes,
I think last Prime Tuesday you were talking about HueForge. Have you gotten to play more?
Oh, yes, I have. I have played with HueForge. There was a poetry contest at my college, believe it or not, for the faculty, everybody that worked there. And so the president solicited haikus from employees, and then there were people who were selected as prize who submitted prize-winning haikus. And so if you won, the president took you to lunch, and then she also made a donation to the Alumni Foundation, and you as a poet awardee in your name. So anyhow, I won. I was one of the winners for the haiku competition, and the president of Nova is an English major and a literary academic. And so years and years ago, she shared that her favorite book was Charlotte's Web. And so what I did is I used the HueForge to recreate the cover of the Charlotte's Web book. And so what I did is I used a RBG or CMYK set of filament that I got from Bamboo, from my Bamboo Mini. And I was thinking, well, CMYK, that is going to get you every color in the rainbow. However, I wasn't able to get these letters to come out as black because they're black in the original book cover, and then Charlotte here is just an indentation. I couldn't get her black as well. I couldn't do that, and also there's a couple of color differences here. So I've come to the conclusion that when I'm using HueForge, I probably need to use more than just 4 colors. The CMYK, it does not give you the infinite color the way that you might get from let's say a color printer or a laser color array. I suspect that the dots are too large. The pixels are too large in order to do so. But it was a really good learning opportunity, and I'm really glad. Had a great lunch in Fairfax, and she really liked the book cover. So yes, I because I heard of HueForge as a co-host of the show, and I pulled the software down and started playing with it and learned something new. So yeah. How about
So
you? What kind of projects you working on?
well, I actually found a segue. So
That
I mean,
yes.
we could talk about me anytime, everybody. Um,
Okay.
so the segue that I was jumping on here is you, as you go down this Hugh Forge journey, you're going to have a lot of iterations, and your path to success will have some failures. And that's
Of course.
one thing that our guest does effectively champion. This is from his Instagram account, where you see the final product, but he shows you, also gives you a glimpse of all of the iterations and things that worked, didn't work so good, that took to get there. So, with that segue, if everybody's comfortable with it, I'm going to
A
go ahead and
wonderful
introduce
segue.
our
Yes,
guest.
absolutely.
Because again, we could talk about me anytime.
Well, we certainly will. We will definitely do that today. Don't worry, we will.
Okay. All right. So our guest tonight, I think, is a fantastic ambassador for 3D printing and also the maker community in whole. He co-founded the Fairfield County Makers Guild. He started the CT Robotics Academy. He runs 2 makerspaces, and he still has time to be an amazing teacher, both in person at a local college and also online. He has built, and you probably have already seen some of these, he has built up an impressive suite of Fusion 360 courses and tutorials, even going back, I found one way back in 2016. The students he has taught can be measured in the tens of thousands.
Amazing.
And his designs and his tutorials have been featured on Instructables and Make and Hackaday and a little YouTube channel you may have heard of called 3D Printing Nerd. So I would like everybody to please welcome Vlad Mariano from Desktop Makes. And let me get your Instagram off the screen.
You're muted, buddy. You're muted. You're muted, Vlad. Vlad, you're muted. You gotta. There you go.
There you go.
Completely forgot about that. I was saying that was one of the best introductions I've ever had. I was thinking, wow, I got to meet this person. Thanks.
Well, one thing that is I'm sure there's others out there, but you are a great designer, a great innovator, and also a great teacher. So I admire you as a designer, and I admire you as a teacher. And it's a joy to have you tonight.
Thank you. Really excited to be on here. I appreciate you having me and the invite. So yeah, it's awesome to see you every year, Vicky, at what used to be Earth, at now 3D Printopia.
3D Printopia.
Yeah, I think that's where we first met. But yeah, I'm excited that you invited me to come on. And Dr. Lawrence, I'm glad to first. I don't think we've met before, but yeah, get to meet today. So
absolutely. Now, did you have is it possible that your college had a table at Earth 2018 where you were using a lot of high impact polystyrene hips?
No, that wasn't my college. That was probably
okay.
Yeah.
Swing and a miss on that. Well, we will know. We will definitely connect this year for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
Why don't we start and just how did your maker journey begin? And I think we've established you predate me and Lawrence, right? Like Lawrence has been doing it 11 years. Yeah. I think I came on board in 2014-ish.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. Boy, I guess to pick the beginning of it, I would say probably around 2012 where we started. It wasn't quite the makerspace yet, but it was a meetup group, and it began around the original MakerBot replicator, like the wooden panel one.
The wooden one, yes.
Yeah. And someone had posted that they just got the new replicator, and I've kind of was always looking for interesting groups to sort of get into, and I was always into making. And so the way it started, actually, we had our first meeting at this person's house, and it was just the 3D printer set up in the living room, and we all got to meet each other. And then that just kind of continued, and then we would meet every week, and we were all doing different things. And so everyone was building something, and then we would meet at each other's house. It used to be like after work on a Thursday, and like one person was brewing beer, another person was building their own musical instruments. I was actually building my own 3D printer at the time. And yeah, it was a really great group. And then, at the time, that's when like the maker movement was going, and you had what was it, resistors here in Brooklyn, and in was it Noisebridge, and the ones in California. So there were only like a handful of back then there were hacker spaces, I guess.
Yes.
And I remember the whole discussion, like, should we call ourselves a hacker space or a maker space? Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we thought it would be really cool if we had our own space. And so we actually started with the library. I approached the library and the director of our library, and I said, we'd like to start a maker space. And the reply I got back was actually really cool, because she said, oh my goodness, I just got back from a library conference in Seattle, and the theme of it was maker spaces. And I get back and check my email, and the first email I get is you talking about you want to start a maker space at the library. So that's how we initially got started. And we would meet, and we would teach Arduino classes and 3D printing, and until we eventually were able to get our own space. So yeah,
Wow.
and that was 2012, 2013, and then beginning of 2014, we actually were able to open up our own space.
Wow. I don't want to get too nostalgic, but you used Kira as the slicer. I don't think that Slick 3R had come out just yet, and everything was Arduino Uno based.
I'm trying to remember what was the first one I used. I almost want to. The first one I used was MakerBot Slicer, because that was actually. No. Yeah,
I've seen that slicer actually.
Yeah. So that was the one, and then when I built my own, so I built the Prusa, the Mendelmax, the one with the it had the aluminum extrusions instead of the threaded rods. Yeah.
Yes.
And so my first Maker Faire, I think, was 2012, and I saw someone carrying the threaded rod 3D printer that everyone was doing, like the original Prusa. And then, I don't know, something just grabbed me, and it was like, you've got to build one, and then so I really got into it. And those were the days where, like, there were no kits. You had to, it was basically, you found an Excel spreadsheet of a build of materials, and then you kind of sorts your parts out. Like, I remember getting my bearings from the local skateboard shop, and then whatever I could find from Home Depot or McMaster Car. Radio Shack was still around, so I got my Arduino.
I was going to ask you about Radio Shack. We're aging ourselves.
Yeah.
Quite the adventure and quite the fire hazard, but you made it, which is great.
Yeah. It's the journey. Yeah.
Oh, great. And so you went from maker / hobbyist, and you're moving forward to, and now you started as a makerspace. You got your foothold in a library.
Yeah.
But can you talk about the two makerspaces that you're involved with?
Yeah. So the interesting story with that. So while we were in the library, we were looking for a space, and I was so excited. Like, the whole maker movement, it was kind of all I wanted to do. And the way we found our first space, I walked into this old factory building, and because I just thought this would make a great makerspace area. And I asked for the landlord if someone had the contact for the landlord, and then the lady I spoke to said, well, I'm the landlord. And my pitch to her was, I have a really great idea, but I don't have any money. Are you willing to listen? And she said, sure. So we sat down, and I explained the idea of a makerspace. And she said, you know what, follow me. And she had a little corner in that factory up on the second floor of it. And she said, what do you think of this space? And gave us an amazing offer to get started, and so that's how we got going. So our group, we basically funded it with our own money and our own equipment. We brought in our own 3D printers, and then we opened it up to the community, and then bought some more tools, had a little like machine shop and just some basic, electronics area. And we opened it up for membership. And then we had an open house where we kind of advertised it, and our local community college sent a few sort of people to check it out who were in the board, because they were looking to just get a makerspace started. And they showed up and they said, hey, they I gave them a tour, and they said, look, we're trying to get a makerspace going. Are you willing to help us, set it up? Or just, it wasn't really set it up. It was just, they asked me for some advice. Are you willing to meet with us and help us sort of plan it? And I said, sure. And then so I met with them a couple of times and just gave them my feedback, how they should proceed. And then, so after my second meeting with them, then they said, well, why don't we just pay you to come do it, come run it, And then, the funny thing is, so I'm running our community makerspace, which is just, I'm volunteering. It's sort of my passion project. And so my thought was, wait, so you're going to pay me to do what I'm doing for free right now? So,
isn't that great?
Yeah, it's such sure. So I went, and then I that's how I started running the community college makerspace, as well as our community makerspace.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then at what point did you discover and fall in love with Fusion 360?
Boy, so Fusion, so my journey into 3D design actually started with SketchUp.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was using SketchUp, and I was really into robotics at the time. I took a mechatronics course in school, and I really fell in love with the just programmable electronics and mechanics, and I loved building like these line follow robots or wall following robots, and I would want to build like a sensor would need to be mounted up a certain way at an angle, and I would always like struggle with like different brackets and popsicle sticks and glue gun, to try to make it. And then 3D printing sort of like, oh, this is perfect, so I could use it to get the exact, angle I wanted. And then, so yeah, I started with SketchUp because at that time there really wasn't much, especially much that you could get for free, or at least a reasonable price. So I started with SketchUp, and I remember like their XDL export that wasn't even like built in. It was like you had to like download it separate as a plugin. But I did that, and then I want to say around 2013, I probably used SketchUp for like a year, and then learned it, and then I saw Fusion. I think it was just through like a YouTube video, and I thought this looks interesting. So once I kind of played around with it, I was like, oh no, this is the way. The whole parametric aspect. Because SketchUp, I always felt like when you design something and you wanted to make a change, you had to kind of start over. So Fusion was around 2013, and that was very early on. I got kind of lucky there, fortunate that I was kind of one of the really early people to get behind it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so it's changed so much since 2013. What do you think has been the most substantial change to it? If you could put your finger on one.
Oh, just I'm getting like a rattling sound. I don't know if you guys are hearing it.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
There's nothing going on in this room.
Oh, interesting. I don't know what's on my end. All right. Okay, so the most significant change to Fusion. Oh boy.
Tough question. Sorry about that.
Oh, Karen says she hears it too.
Yeah. Someone's mic. It's almost like a little rattling.
I'm gonna try me. I'll mute myself. Scientific method, and we'll see.
All right. Is it rattling?
Yeah, it's gone.
Oh, are you
There might
printing
be
something
near your mic? Is there, or your desk might be shaking?
I am very animated, but I can switch mics. Is it better or not?
I don't hear it anymore.
Okay, I pushed it away because I am animated and I'm loud.
Yeah, so. I'm the same way. Like I move around a lot, and I'll watch my camera bounce, and I'm like, oh, I need to stop touching.
Absolutely.
Everybody's pointing at me. Sorry, everybody.
No, we all have to contribute in our own special way, and so we're thankful for the rattles, Vicky. Thank you. We appreciate that. It's okay. A little bit of spice. So yeah. Vlad. Oh yeah. So yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were saying.
Oh, so you were asking me the question about Fusion. Yeah. I was gonna say I just love how easy they like. If you're 3D printing, it's just an amazing tool. Like you get your design, and the fact that you can just go, okay, print this. It'll actually open up the slicer, throw your model in there, you're good to go. Just like little things like that saves you like a bunch of clicks.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And the fact that there's so many different environments in it. Like there's the parametric solid modeling or modeling. And then there's also sculpting, which I'm trying to dive into a little more.
Wow.
And you've got sheet metal. So, there's all the different, the different environments of it. Although I will say, like, sculpting is where, like, that's where I live more. I mean, sorry, not sculpting. Parametric modeling is where I kind of live the most. But I'm trying to jump into more of like the
Branch out.
sculpting stuff. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's great. That's great. Well, so Vicky, Vlad's got something to show us as far as design.
If I can, I would want to ask, how was your journey to becoming a teacher? Like, how soon were you immediately sharing your findings in Fusion 360?
Yeah, so that started, boy, you know what that began with? I found that I was really into the whole community. Like, I loved Instructables, just YouTube tutorials. And then it was like one day I had this realization. And I thought, I'm taking a lot and I'm not really giving back, to that. And so I first started by, I think, making Instructables, which I was like, oh, I have things I can share, So it started with that. And then once I felt, I think, comfortable with Fusion, then I started doing some tutorials on that. And yeah, and then once I started doing my courses, then it was like, oh yeah, then I can also show, some of the stuff and also show my course. But yeah, so that's how that began. But I had a full-time job, and I was working, and then after like 9 years of working, and I just kind of got done with the job, and it's like I finally, I was like, I gotta leave, and this is the stuff I was passionate about. So I left and started doing this full time. So yeah, so that's when I see he got some of my
Your old
yeah.
Instructables, including this was on Hackaday, the Dancing Springs.
Oh yeah, that was a fun one. The little springs. Yeah, that's the inspiration for that one, I think, started from, there was a Slinky design I made, which was an old video from Devin with Make Anything, that channel.
Oh.
And he printed a Slinky, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm gonna try that in Fusion. I think he was using SolidWorks. And so I did one, and then I was like, that's cool that you can 3D print a working Slinky. And I was just kind of like sitting on the chair twisting it. And I was like, it looks like they're dancing. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to make some dancing springs. So I used the Adafruit board there, and it's got a built-in sound sensor and some servos. And then so there's this really cool video I have somewhere with, like, I brought it to my makerspace, and someone comes in and he was playing the guitar, and as he played the guitar, the springs would dance and light up. And then when it stopped, they would just stop. So it was fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I'm trying to. I saw that video. I'm trying to find it, but if not,
yeah,
we'll continue on.
And so my journey after, I remember sitting in my desk, and then there was like one day I opened up a file to start working, and like it was the time I realized, like, okay, I'm done with this. And the way I kind of picture it happening or remember it, it was almost like I just kind of all of a sudden felt deflated from opening this file. It was like, you remember the old Ghostbusters cartoons where they would put that little contraption and it would suck all the ghost in it and stuff like that. It felt like I opened this file and it just like sucked all the energy out of me into it, and I was like sitting in the chair like feeling deflated. I was like I can't do this anymore, And then so I went and told my boss. I was like, I gave him my notice, and he gave it back to me. He was like, I'm not
no.
Yeah. But no, then I decided, I wanted to, I needed to, oh, there goes a video. Cool.
Yeah, I found it.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So I then went to, I wanted to, my first thought was, since I was pretty good now in Fusion, I thought I would write a book in Fusion 360. And so I started towards that. I started writing a book, and I would kind of do steps, then take screenshots, and then do more steps and take screenshots. And it got a little tedious. And I thought, you know what, why don't I do a video, and then I could just pause it and take screenshots during the, while I'm writing it. And then I thought, so I started recording a video, and then I thought, well, why don't I just do a video course? And so it kind of progressed into that.
That's great.
that led me to my first course, and I was a big fan of Udemy at the time. I love taking courses and learning all sorts of things from Udemy. So I was like, well, that was a platform I was familiar with, so I released my first course on Udemy, and yeah, it was a little nerve wracking, and but I'm surprised that one thing I kind of say is like, how you say like you wish you knew what you knew then now. I say like I wish I'm so glad I didn't know what I know now then, because I didn't have that same sort of idea of what like really good audio should sound like, or really good video. So I just built the course. It was just like, because right now if I would do it, it would take forever, because it would probably need to be perfect. But yeah, the 3D printing one, it's a little outdated. That's from 2016, and I try to do a few sort of videos to refresh it a little bit. But to be honest, it's kind of an outdated course right now, and so but it did really well. It's a top seller on Udemy. I remember when I first put it on there, it was like ranked like page 8, and then within a month I went to the first page, and then after like another month, it was like the top ranked. And when you search 3D printing or fusion, so yeah, I started doing a few more courses, and the feedback I got back was really good. So people kind of
I just want to point out you're getting close to 10,000 reviews.
Oh boy!
And then that 32,000 students.
Yeah. So that kind of, once that course took off, it kind of told me, that's what led me to be like, okay, you don't have to kind of freak out about not having a job. Like you can kind of like, here's a path forward, and something you can pursue. So then I made a few more courses for Udemy, and then I did some courses for other platforms. LinkedIn Learning, which was lynda.com at the time, and Skillshare, and now I use my own platform where I go through Teachable.
Here comes your own platform.
Yeah.
All right.
So those
are confusion out of Fusion 360.
Beautiful.
Yeah. That was from a review I got. That I think I asked them what their pain points were, and they said Fusion is. I think they used that phrase like it should be called Confusion 360, and then I was like, I like that. I'm gonna use it.
Wow.
Yeah. So in addition to the courses, I also do a live class every week where people join, and if they have specific Fusion questions, we actually dive right into it. And it's a really, really great group. We've been going for like 3 years now. So,
I like that. I took a Blender course with Print That Thing, JWall, and one of the best parts was weekly meetings with the other people in the course, and just kind of collaborate and build off of each other.
Yeah, it's like the group we have now, it's pretty amazing. People, even when people, like, if they don't have any questions, they'll show up and they'll learn a lot from other people's questions. So I'll bring their designs into Fusion, and we look at where they're stuck. And it's pretty amazing. We have a few students who've launched products, and have actually released them on Etsy, and have gotten some really like top sellers on Etsy through 3D printing. So there's a few really good success stories of people starting.
You did an Etsy shop as well, right?
I don't have one, no.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But you have a video on.
I have a video where I'm interviewing one of my students who actually has an Etsy shop, and he's giving his pointers on and for others who plan to, if you want to start an Etsy shop, like things he had to learn. It's one of those things that's like on my to-do list, because I'll design things and I'm like, people tell me you should really sell that, but I'm like, well, I want to go design the next thing. Like I don't really want to spend my time selling something. So, but yeah,
whole nother skill set.
Yeah. The struggle is real about like wanting to explore, but then you have to use your time to ship, and so yes, sounds like you made the right choice for you.
Yeah, there's hardly enough time now, because when school is in session, like you could see my YouTube videos, there's always something that gives, because I'll get on the pattern with YouTube videos, and then it's school, and then it's something else, or if I'm working on a course, so it's been like, I think it's a while since I posted a YouTube video, so I got to go back and do something before.
Yeah, actually. Throw that up so you can see what you can expect from the YouTube channel.
All right.
Rack and pinion assembly there.
I was just talking with somebody about the Einstein. It's not a particle, but the Einstein
The
tile.
tile, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
right there. Yeah, that one was a neat. I love things like that, especially designs where you can 3D print and show mathematical principles. So I had fun with the Einstein tile one. Once I saw the video on that, I was like, oh, this has to be 3D printed. And then it became a fusion tutorial, and I was showing how you can use joints to create one tile and then arrange them. You know, in a planar way. Yeah. So
wow.
And I also thought you did a Mobius strip back in the day too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's one I actually had an idea of doing, because I do in my school, I train the students to use the 3D printer. So one of the things I was thinking is, because I have like a little, like it's like a little open source gear they have to print out. But instead of that, I was thinking of having them like each one prints a tile, and then they put it on the wall. And I almost got it going. I have like a magnetic wall, and then I was gonna somehow figure out a way. So every time you print a tile, you get to put it on the wall, and then you get to be part of this whole art project that's also mathematical. So you can actually kind of see your work, and you can see like how many people have been trained in 3D printing. So you're all part of like this one group. So
that's a great idea.
I like that. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they'll go on forever without the pattern repeating.
Yes. And that's the thing. That is definitely the thing. Wow. Well, good. So Vicky, what do you think? Is it time to learn some?
Yes. Why don't we talk today? I don't know if you caught a little spoiler in the YouTube videos, but one of the things Vlad has done in the past year is start incorporating infill patterns into his designs. So we thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about infill. And maybe, Lawrence, you want to do a quick introduction if there's anybody here that's new to 3D printing?
Yes. Thank you, Vicky. So infill is almost just like what it sounds when you're using a machine and you're paying for plastic to make an object. Most of the time you think of a wooden cube. That wooden cube is wood from bottom to top, and every layer there between the top and the bottom is wood as well. In 3D printing, you really, in order to make a cube, you really only need to have the faces of that cube be solid plastic. If you have 6 sides, 6 squares that are arranged together geometrically to look like a cube that you can put in your hand, that is all you would need in order to make an object. Now, because we are paying for that plastic, and because sometimes it's less efficient to fill a cube from bottom to top with plastic, what we do is we put infill between the solid layers of our objects. Infill is the manipulation of a filament in such a way that we fill the space within the cube with anywhere from 1% to as much as 20% plastic, and the rest of it is air. And when we use infill, we can then support all sides of that cube, and we don't have to spend money or waste time filling the entire object with excess plastic. There are different designs of infill. There used to be just a couple of basic models, grid-based and triangles, and then next thing you know, we had Hilbert cubes and then gyroid. There are many, many different ways that infill can be designed, and as we have moved forward as a community, a lot of us have started to appreciate the aesthetic qualities of the infill. And so instead of having a cube that has 6 sides, what we are starting to do is expose our infill and have a cube with just 4 sides, solid on the horizontal faces, and infill on the top and bottom layers to show off those really neat and interesting designs that are available to us to fill our objects in.
All right. Vlad, do you want to show us how you took advantage? I think, did you hit on that? I was checking the chat. Did you hit on that people sometimes think of infill as a part of strength and
Good point. No, I
saving
didn't.
time, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, you can also be a design element.
Right. Yeah. Let me. I'll show. I'm gonna share the my Instagram page real quick because I want to show before I show what I'm doing. It makes more sense to kind of see it built. So this is what I'm making. Well, I'm gonna show this example. So here it's basically I was doing some Christmas ornaments, and I thought it would be cool, the sort of Christmas bauble design, but have the infill be part of the design. There's really some neat infills there, and I thought it worked well with the tree as well as with the ornaments on there. And I've used it in other ways too. There's one here where I have this. So here's a phone stand that I designed, and it's a print and place hinge. And then I decided to incorporate the infill into the design of it. So that's the gyroid design, which I think is a really cool infill pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up using that, and it saves time. And if you do it right, what you'll see me doing is I'll increase the number of walls, so it's not so flimsy, because that'll give it the strength that you're going to lose from taking the top, removing the top and bottom layers. So those are just some examples of how I've used it. But yeah, the point, the reason it's there is so that when you're 3D printing, you don't really need to print things solid, so you have to have some sort of structure there. But that can be used as, not just for strength, but for design as well. So I'll share, I designed the shapes in Fusion, and then I sent them, you can see the printers behind me. I've got two right now here. This is my home office. Let me get out the way. I got my my Bamboo and my two Prusas there. So I'm usually working between Prusa Slicer and Bamboo Studio. So let me share. I'll show this one in the Bamboo Slicer here. And so when you send an object, and here I'm sending this from Fusion, and so I sent all these four, and there are four separate bodies. I sent it as one object. So they come in and it's all one unit. You see how they move around? Now I can slice this, and you can see that it slices it, and they're all, you have, well, here, let me see. I kind of already had it sliced, so you should see that I removed the top and bottom layers on this, on the wall. So let me put them back. So let's see. Let me go back. So here, okay, so when you slice these, normally you'll have a top layer and a bottom. Let me go back. I should when I was playing around with it, I should have resetted it. But that's all right. We'll move forward. One thing you have to make sure is that if you want to do one thing I do here, actually, before I go into that, we can show here the different patterns. So if you remove your top and bottom layers, so here, let's go to, I'm going to stop share for a second, and I'm going to send it to Fusion, because I did some changes there, and it'll be easier if I just kind of start over there. So I'm gonna go. Actually, I'll show that part too, because that'll be interesting to. I'll show the part where I send it from Fusion and how I send it. So let me go to present, and I'll share my Fusion. So the nice thing with Fusion here is, here's the design here. And then so all you have to do is go to, the few different ways you could do it. But if you right click up here, you'll say save as mesh. And then there's a button here that's checked that says send to 3D print utility. And you can map whichever, slicer you want. So here I've got it sent to the Bamboo Studio, but otherwise I'll switch between, Prusa, and it'll just send it there. So I'll click OK. And the nice thing is it'll go ahead and open the Bamboo Studio with the model right in there. So let me share that. So there it is. Let me delete the old one. And so it brings it right in. And if you slice that as normal, this is sort of your default slicing. You have a couple bottom layers, and then you have whatever default infill setting. and it'll be the same for all the models, and then you've got your top and top layers. But what you can do is you can go here, and remove the top layers. So I'll bring those down, top shell layers to 0, and then bottom shell layers to 0, and then reslice it. And now you've removed the top and bottom, and you've exposed, that infill pattern. And then so, the neat thing is they usually, like, infill patterns were limited to like rectilinear and just, some regular shapes. But now there's some really cool ones. You can click here and you can change, like, you've got this octagram spiral, and you can slice that, and you've got some really cool patterns there. Not only that, but then you can also go and change so that each model has a different pattern. And the way you do that is you first have to split this. This is one object. You click up here where it says split to objects. And now you can see that these are broken up into, you can select them individually. And then if you look over here on the left panel, you'll see that you can select them as individual objects. And you've got a global process and your objects. And you can go for each object and give those a different infill. So let's say we'll keep that one as octagram, and then we'll go to this one here. Let's change that to something else, maybe the Archimedean chord there. And then let's choose this one. And then you just go and keep adding. We'll do a gyroid there. And this last one, let's do old-fashioned honeycomb. And then if I slice, you can see that they all have their own different patterns there. And then one other thing I'll do, let me go back to global. I'll add for strength wall loops. I'll go ahead and make everything 6 walls and then reslice it. And you can see how it thickens that outer wall there. So now you've got, a more sturdy part. And you can also play around with the infill settings on these. Like if this one here, let's go back to objects. You want to change just one infill, you would select them here. And then you can change that gyroid. Maybe that 15% is looking too dense. I'll make that 10 and then slice that again. You can see how that opened up a bit here. But yeah, I really enjoy how you can kind of just take some of these infill patterns that are meant to be more for structural support and then just sort of make art out of it,
Yes. Did you have a favorite infill pattern?
I'm a big fan of the gyroid, but this one here is like where it starts with the star and kind of spreads out. Which one is that? I don't even know what that one's called. Archimedean? No, that's the spirals Archimedean. This is.
I like the Hilbert curve a lot.
Oh, let's try that one. Let's see. Change this to. Where's our Hilbert? Here it is. Yeah, slice that. Yeah, so it's this one right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it has a neat effect too, because this doesn't, like if there's nothing in the middle to support it, it kind of flexes in and out. So it does all that.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's basically the technique. It's pretty straightforward, but you can have a lot of fun with it, kind of explore different ways you can incorporate it, because designing some of these, like think about like trying to design this the gyroid in Fusion. I wouldn't even know where to begin. See that pattern.
Let the slicer do the heavy lifting on this.
Yeah, and even there's things I've designed that has honeycomb in it, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I just designed it, but that's actually an infill pattern I could have just used.
Now, are you able to? You're using patterns from the slicer. Have you, Vlad? Have you ever done any custom infills of your own? Design infills with Fusion 360, or is that something that you're not up to yet? I mean, and then the other follow-up question.
I feel like I have, but I'm trying to think of an example, but I'm not. I feel like there's something where I did sort of my own, but I haven't done. It may be more just as a pattern, not quite maybe for like infill support type. I've nothing I can think off the top of my head. I'll probably get off and be like, oh yeah, there was that one, but
I hear it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've done some custom infill patterns
Uh-huh.
and the Prusa Slicer code. And I'm working, I'm hitting the same thing that you were when you're doing your book, like doing all the screenshots. I have like a mega blog post on how I do it and whatnot, but maybe it would just be good to just do it as a video one day or whatnot. So I think the long story short is I build off of that Hilbert curve. And the way that works in the code is it's just drawing points and filling up a plane. And so I just pretty much like copy and paste and do that. But I guess here, since we're on the subject, I have a little. This is I blame Pezliz for getting me roped into. This is a heart.
Look at that.
There's some discussion on one of the it was around Valentine's Day on X, and people were talking about how to slice and print a certain design, and she mentioned heart infill. So I did a little sketch, got my little points, copied and paste. I got ChatGPT to help me a little bit with some of it because when you're going one way, your points are going one way, and then when you're going the other way, you want to go backwards. And so I didn't want to deal with that code. I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, take this code and reverse it or whatnot.
Oh yes.
That's
but
cool.
one thing that you can see here is this is also building off of that technique we're seeing with the ornaments that we were just turning off the top and the bottom layers and maybe increasing the perimeters, and we had the ornaments. Well, here in Prusa Slicer, and I believe Bamboo Studio too, Vlad, you can do modifiers. Is that correct? Yeah. So in this case, I did some modifiers in Prusa Slicer, and just where those modifiers were, I said, hey, now we're going to turn off our top and bottom layers, and we're going to use the special heart infill. Yeah. So in your honor, or in honor of this episode, I did do a little infill clock here. So it was exactly the same thing, and I can just pull that up in Prusa Slicer as well, which I'm just going through. Every one of these little areas is just another modifier with a different infill setting for the clock.
That's really cool.
Most of this it's Prusa Slicer. I just had two, like I had the base shape of the whole clock and the little shape of what I wanted to cut out. And everything else was done in Prusa Slicer. And appropriate.
I feel like when that clock is around the room and someone asks you the time, you have to respond where it's like, it's a quarter to gyro.
Oh, gyro. It's honeycomb. It's aligned rectilinear or whatnot. Hey, so I think at the top of the show, I talked about how Lawrence and I both have school-aged children that are doing their SOLs today, this week. And one of the things they both, like 5th grade and 8th grade, are doing are circles. And so circles have 360 degrees. A clock has 12 places. So when I go ahead and add in like when I first added this first one in, I just did add modifier, and then I loaded the STL that I wanted. And you can also do it with scalable vector graphics now in Prusa Slicer, and you can also use text. So, hey, Mother's Day is coming up. You could do something and do big text of mom, and maybe do that as your modifier and expose the infill. But like once I had the first one in place, it's just pretty much hopefully copy and paste there. And 360 divided by 12 is 30 degrees. So I would just come over here and do my rotate. And I've learned off screen that I want to do negative 30 degrees. And there we go. Wow. And just like Vlad was showing, I can come down now, and hopefully you can see my drop downs. Yep. Karen will let me know if you can't see my drop. Some of your drop downs weren't showing up, but people got the idea, Vlad. So then I could come through and pick which infill that I want and have it slice. And there we go. We have my clock, and it actually works.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really neat how you can kind of pretty much design in a slicer now.
Yes, Prusa Slicer is getting more and more.
Yeah.
I don't know. I fall
Design
more and more
tool.
in love with it each day, especially, now that I have the source code and I could, like play around and see how things work. That
Yeah.
endears it to me. I can also download Bamboo Studio. So just to be fair to them, but the Prusa Slicer is the one that I have downloaded. So it's easy.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, that's that. The thing about it is though is that for me, if you're going, I think I've gotten mentally. I'm using the word lazy because Bamboo, you go straight from slice to print, right? And with Prusa Slicer, we don't quite have that capability just yet. So we're still moving things around with SD cards and stuff. Or do you do it in Prusa Slicer and then switch it over to Bamboo, or how do you get it to your Bamboo, Vicky?
Me?
Yeah.
I use the SD card. I never installed it on the network.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's probably a good idea. Anyhow, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it would be beneficial. My oldest child he has Bamboo Studio on his laptop and he slices things, and it'd probably be easier for him if I put it on the network and he could just send it straight to it.
Right.
For me, it's just behind me, so I can just go to it.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
One thing I ran into with Bamboo as well is that I had attempted to download some Christmas ornaments that featured Infill, and I got an error message saying that it wasn't gonna produce. Bamboo Slicer has a tendency to overthink for you as an end user, even in the expert mode. I'm sure that it's just a toggle that I need to endorse in order to change it so that I can have open Infill on the plate. Have you run into that problem at all?
Wait, say, and you try to do an infill and it wouldn't calculate?
Well, no. I tried to do an object that had no bottom or top layers,
and it wouldn't calculate.
And it told me that it wasn't possible. So, but it may have been. But I'm going to use the techniques that you showed us today, and go back and try again. I have printed things without Infill already, but I ran into that problem at least in the early stages of Bamboo Slicer.
Yeah, I can't say I've run into that problem where it just refused to do it with Infill. Yeah.
Oh well. I'll get it sussed out. I've but I'll definitely have to use Vicky's technique with Prusa Slicer to get some really neat uses of modifiers.
I believe you can do modifiers in Bamboo Studio. Does anybody want to fact check me on that, or I can pull it out?
I've never tried it, but I want to agree with you that you can. It seems like such a basic thing that they would.
I don't want to disseminate bad information.
No. I can check really quick.
Okay. Thanks.
We're going.
And then
so I can show really quick. I think the issue, sometimes my Mac acts weird. If I choose to share a window, it won't share, but I think if I share the screen, it'll actually share my when I do the windows or the tabs. So let me try this really quick. I'm gonna share
infinite.
Wrong slicer. Okay. All right, you see my Bamboo?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you right click, you can add primitives.
But you don't have the modifiers.
Let me see. But then I feel like there's a way. I haven't really simplify fill.
There you go. Add. Okay.
Modifier,
Add the modifier there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So then you can go, and then it would be the same way probably. Then you would just go ahead and you've got the cone here, and then you can add your settings for that part of the filament or the print. Yeah.
In Prusa Slicer, you can also add text and SVG as a modifier too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love that. When a slicer releases something, then another one doesn't. I love that there's multiple ones because I feel like it kind of gets them to release new features. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I have one question for you now, Vladimir. How has color? Because I see you've got one of the bamboo units there with you. How
Yeah.
has color affected your design practice? Has it penetrated your design practice to the point where you're designing with color in mind, color changes, color adjustments?
I don't do too much with color, honestly. Although I was doing this design here with the when I was saying I'm trying to get into more sculpting. So this was a lesson I was doing with my live class.
Mm-hmm.
And let me show my Fusion here, and I'll show the design. And then, but what I'll do is I'll design it in Fusion. And let me see, there's this airplane here, and then I'll color it to just kind of show me like, how do I want this to look?
Oh, I see.
And with this particular design, I actually have it as it's gonna snap fit together, and I have these sort of hexagon holes and little pegs that I made that will make it sort of friction fit together. But then that guides me into, okay, this color scheme works well together. So, then I'll kind of print it with that. And then, so the bamboo makes it easy when you're just printing in multiple colors. But normally I'm kind of mainly designing in different parts and just printing. So I'll actually, if I'm printing something that's multiple part, I'll have one running on the bamboo and then the one running on the Mini Prusa and the other one on the Mark IV. And then I just print them all. So here is like, I'll show that. Here was the original. Let me show my camera. This was like bought from Amazon. The plane. And then here's the 3D printed one. Like, this camera's backwards. So I was trying to replicate it. And then cool. So I printed this with all the different colors that you see there. So that was, so that's kind of stuff with colors. The propeller actually printed pretty nicely as well.
It really did.
Yeah, just used supports for that. But yeah, that's sort of, I don't do too much. When you were talking about the Hue Forge, I've been wanting, that's on my list of things to actually, start playing with, because there's some really neat things I've seen people make with it, and using color for design. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I sense a lull, so I want to jump back to a comment. Karen Chow, she wanted to know if the rebranding of Fusion 360, if it has an impact on your material, if you're going to have to leave everything or go back.
Impact on what? Like,
it says, how does the rebranding of Fusion 360 to Fusion impact your existing material? Do you plan to leave everything as is?
Yeah, no, it doesn't impact anything. I mean, they just changed the name. Yeah. It's easier now because you don't have to say the 360 part, which I was doing a lot of the time anyway. I would just say Fusion instead of Fusion 360. And they probably realized that a lot of people were doing that anyway, so they just probably changed it. Because that's my guess. I have no idea. I'm just but yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. And as we're nearing the end of our time, if anybody has any questions for Vlad, let us know. He did indicate before the show that he is open to fielding Fusion questions, not Fusion 360, Fusion questions. So it doesn't necessarily have to be slicing. I think. Take the confusion out of Fusion doesn't have as nice of a ring to it as take the confusion out of Fusion 360.
I'll show while people are thinking of questions. Do you see my Fusion?
Here it comes. Yep.
Okay, I'll show. So some of the stuff this is kind of more latest, some of the stuff I've been working on. This was the YouTube video I did, which is the rack and pinion. Nice thing about this is you can do motion too. So you can go ahead and tell it what the relationship is between the gears, and you get sort of that nice movement. And then this was another one that's this is the trammel of Archimedes, and you can actually move it around and put joints and tell it the relationships between all these. So you have got slider joint, revolute joint, and rigid joint, and they combine to make the movement together here. So it's really cool because then you can design and see if it actually works before you 3D print it. This was Christmas card I made that you like one of those card kits where you can actually stuff it in
Yeah.
an envelope, send it, and it make it, and then you can build it. So I thought it was nice to kind of make this for the holidays and send to friends and family. Oh, here's one where I used color actually, which was nice. You can just change the different colors. This is color change by layer, so it's a lot more efficient than waiting for all the purging. And I did another one. So I think when you were asking me about infill, one way I think I was thinking in my mind was I did another one of this. It's a little bit different, but it's a brick cottage, and I patterned the brick. So I might have been thinking that, but it's not really infill. It's more of just like a brick texture.
Oh, I might.
Yeah. And
have.
Wow, look at that.
This, we actually ended up making this in real life for an art festival here, and it's 6 feet tall, and they're laser cut panels. But I designed this in Fusion, and the neat thing here is I also designed the vertices here that hold everything together. So that would be these, and so these are 3D printed, and so everything the panels just screw into those, and if you all you do is put the vertices in the right places, and then it'll give you this shape. So that was kind of neat to design all that in Fusion. Yeah. And I did a little small model one before we went with the big one.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you were doing both additive and subtractive processes with Fusion.
Yeah, so I a lot of my laser cut work I will do in Fusion, and then I export it as a DXF to whatever laser software I'm using. But I will also I've dabbled a little bit with the cam, so for CNCs, but that's another part I want to dive into more because it has a built-in cam environment where you can design your paths. Yeah.
Yep. Someone asked your gingerbread house. How long did that one take? I feel like it could take. He could do it in 6 months or so.
Well, I mean, once you got it all, because there was a lot there that you're trying to get the gaps so that it's easy to build. So, because I was going for, good like friction fit between those, but it took a while, to get that going. I don't remember how long, but as far as once you got it made, the print is not that long.
Here's the
yeah
Instagram post.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you basically snip those out and then you build it. Yeah, people love building them, so they're fun. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, that's a question. Accolades.
It would take a while it wouldn't take that long. All you have to do is sign up for one of Vlad's courses, and it's going to take that much. Get it done right away.
Which, while we're thinking of it, we will put up the link again so you can find out more about Vlad and his Fusion. I didn't know about the rebranding when I did all this stuff, but his Fusion courses at desktopmakes.com.
Well. Yeah, all my sites still say Fusion 360. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
the brick pattern.
Here's the brick. Yeah, and I am very familiar with this one because Vlad kindly let me use this image in one of my classes for some librarians because I just think it's a great illustration. And we saw this a little bit last time with Al and his cathedral of how details can be rendered differently depending on your orientation.
Yep. Yeah. So one is printed flat and the other one is printed upright.
Vertically.
Yeah, vertically, and you can see how it the bricks come out with the different orientation. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Zombie Hedgehog who's watching, and he thinks he built your gingerbread house last year.
Oh, awesome.
That's great.
Wonderful. Yeah.
All right. Well, as always, the time flies. And I told you the time would fly. Didn't I tell you the time would fly?
Yeah.
So we'll do our normal housekeeping or our normal end here, which is, well, first off, I thank everybody in the chat for coming and participating, except maybe that one spam comment. But everybody else, thank you so much for your participation and joining us today. We do this show live on Tuesdays that are prime numbers. And as luck would have it, there's 7 days in a week. So every other day this month, every other Tuesday this month is a multiple of 7 because today's the
There we
7th.
go.
So
Yeah,
we don't have
yeah.
any more Prime Tuesdays in May. So you'll see us back, I think, in 5 weeks on June 11th. And I just want to confirm with our guests before I announce, but I think I'm excited about that one. Not I think, I know I'm excited about that one. And I think you'll like that guest too. If you are interested in being a guest slicer, you could go to howwouldyouslicethat.com and fill out a form to be a guest slicer like Vlad. And if you have a model that maybe you think is interesting or tricky, or if you want to do self-promotion, you designed the model and you'd like think it might be good for us to discuss on the show, you can submit that to at howwouldyouslicethat.com. Lawrence, I don't think I ever do an adequate job at thanking people for watching and thanking our guests. Do you want to try to take a stab at it this time?
Thank you all so much for joining us here, taking the time out of your day to learn more and grow the community of 3D printing and share information and some of the things that we have all been going through to get better and to keep up with this technology that really means so much to us all. And so thank you all so much for joining us, and it's been a prime time, and the next Prime Tuesday is June 11th, and we'll see you then.
Yep, and Lawrence, you mentioned that we teach people about prime numbers, but may not always be a good thing.
Yes, it is. It is.
All right, thank you, everyone, and
Yeah,
we'll see you in June.
Yep, thanks for having me, guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Vlad.